stage, I want to welcome Stav. Sorry, I practiced this and now I've been talking for so long, Stav.
It's fine.
Hinenzon. Stav Hinenzon. Stav is a game designer and developer based in Redmond, Washington. He's currently working as a technical game designer at Sony Interactive Entertainment on an unannounced title. His previous work includes Forza Street, The Last of Us Part 1 on PS5, and Sunshine Shuffle, which will be the topic of today. So please go ahead and take it away, Stav.
Hello, as like I said, I'm Stav Hinenzon. I am a game developer based in Redmond, Washington. One small change, my contract at Sony ended this month. So as of this very month, I am unemployed. But other than that, let's talk. I am here to talk about a game I worked on called Sunshine Shuffle. I'm going to talk about its dialogue system and its tooling, the assumptions that went into it, and just kind of what's going on about there. So this is going to be a messy approach to dynamic narrative in Sunshine Shuffle. First, let me introduce the game. So Sunshine Shuffle is a narrative poker game where you sit at a table with some cute animals and you play some games of poker as they tell you a thrilling tale of crime and betrayal that happened many years ago. Now, part of the appeal of the game is that the poker layer and the narrative layer happen simultaneously and pretty much independently of each other. Characters can talk and play poker at the same time. A character might bet and then say a line and then pass the turn, and it all kind of just flows. Now, if you are familiar with Telltale, you might know all this. So the game is it's inspired by Poker at the Inventory, another game where characters sit around the table and play poker and shoot the shit. But the major difference is this is a game, Sunshine Shuffle is a game with original characters and an original story, whereas Poker Night is more a poker game with characters you know and love kind of serving as background to that. In Sunshine Shuffle, the poker is really a background to a thriller story. You might also have heard of us from that time. The Switch version of the game got delayed due to some hilarious child gambling shenanigans, but that's a story for another time. If you know, you know. This is going to be a quick overview of the talk. I'm going to talk about the dialogue system, the assumptions that went into it, the tooling that allowed us to create conversations, and kind of what got baked in. And then I'm going to talk about how those things that got baked in kind of got messed up. They were challenged over the course of development. Those assumptions, some of them turned out to be wrong. And then I'm going to talk about what the game was able to accomplish anyway, and what I'm proud of about the game. And then I'm going to end with some takeaways. That's all I'm going to cover, so let's go. So first, let's talk about the tools. Sunshine Shuffle, for its dialogue, needs a bunch of conversations to happen around the table. Those conversations are conceptualized as storylets. If you don't know what storylets are, I'd strongly recommend Emily Short's. She has multiple great blogs on the subject. Max Kraminski, they've also written some good stuff about it. But for the purpose of this game, they're basically conversations as discrete assets with certain preconditions that determine which conversation can be selected, post conditions that affect which future conversations are going to be selected, and some kind of selection mechanism. This is what that looks like for Sunshine Shuffle. We had a lot of conversations, and then each conversation has its preconditions. And then when the table needed another conversation at certain intervals, we would select from one of the available conversations based on weighted randomness. Now, Sunshine Shuffle's story structure is pretty simple. It is a linear story of main conversations that happen in a particular sequence, plus optional conversations that get unlocked at certain points in the story. So really, anytime we need a new conversation, we're going to be selecting from the next main conversation and any number of optional conversations the player has unlocked. When those get selected, it gets played at the table. Now, to author that conversation, it's Squiggles, a node-based editor built using Xnode. So that came about from talking to Oliver what he preferred, and like we need to plug that into i2 localization. So yeah, and when I was first making this tool, my goal was to be atomic. I kind of talked Tully Rafferty, a former Telltale programmer, he worked on the project and provided a lot of advice and for building the tool as well. And I wanted to have a degree of control like they had, but like they seemed to have back then, where they have a lot of like, we can have an animation, we can have a look, and we can have a character making a face, and each thing can be integrated into the conversation. So that was kind of the mindset I went into it. Everything needs to be very atomic. There were some problems with that. I'll get to that later. And then, in addition, to have individual lines interrupt the course of gameplay outside of the normal kind of conversation system, we had barks, which in the case of Sunshine Shuffle were based on particular gameplay triggers on particular characters. And then we have a bunch of lines. And you'll notice that here, everything about the line is in one place. The speaker is in one place, the localization term we're using, the actual text of the line, the animation that plays with the line, the face that accompanies it, it's all in one entry. And that reflects the way that our schema for how things are structured kind of consolidated over the course of development. And that's going to come up again later. So behind the scenes, the two main parts were the queue and the parser. So that node graph, a lot of different nodes. Each node is a chore. That's how we conceptualized it internally. A chore is a thing, an animation, a turn in a poker game, a character making a face. So you essentially had a set of chores, set of nodes, each node representing a chore, and you had a parser which acted as a playhead. It started at the start of the conversation, and then it moved to the next, made a chore, put that on a queue, an event queue. Next, put that on the queue, put it in a queue, put it in a queue. That, from the poker side, that also put events on the same queue. And that queue was a priority queue. Each chore in that queue had a priority. They were organized by that priority, and then the highest priority task got played first. And it was particularly important that any chore that could block other things from playing would get higher priority and would play first. So that way, when something big happened in the game, a character going all in or a showdown, that would get high priority because it would go first and it would lock other things from playing. Because otherwise, everything just kind of plays when it goes on. When something big like that happened, we needed to temporarily lock conversations if they were happening, prevent those chores from firing. And then, when we get back, we can insert things into the queue. In this case, a bark to return us to the conversation. And that was the basic structure. That was the basic skeleton of it. There is a node graph, a parser that goes through those nodes, and then converts those nodes into chores that go onto a queue that takes events from multiple sources. And that way, we have everything in one place, and we know in what order things need to play. Here were some problems with this as the game was kind of going through development. First is, like I mentioned earlier, over the course of development, our structures and workflows coalesced in ways I didn't predict at the start. Our main unit for the story was the lines, like in a script, and then for poker is a turn-based game, we had our turns. And what ended up happening behind the scenes is that to control the timing of things, to make sure that everything for a particular unit got focused, that a line got played and that entire thing got through, and we could now be free to focus on something else. All the chores from that essentially got consolidated and played at the same time. And that means that that earlier atomic kind of conception of the chore graph, it wasn't necessary. And it added a lot of time and work to creating conversations in the game, because everything you want to do, you had to click, make a new node, drag the link. It was time consuming, and it just required people to come in to just do the work of hooking up conversations. Eventually, in order to maintain focus and maintain control over what was happening at the table, we needed to have those units. Lines were the units for the dialogue, turns were the units for gameplay, and we could go through all the chores in one and then do another or focus on something else. And just general, the timing of how things went. For a narrative mode in any game, timing is essential and designers should have control over that. The way the tool was built, where we have storylets, and the storylet is just a node of graphs, and then the code handles the rest, it didn't really provide well-surfaced means to control that kind of timing to the designers. This resulted in a lot of the need for programmers basically step in and do that work to control the timing, because it was all based on float variables scattered across many C# scripts. And that meant that cost us an iteration time for how do we iterate on the flow of conversation, the flow of poker, and just player load. And then there was delegation. When I said that it was across many C# scripts, I meant it. There was confusion across what exactly handles timing, because the plan going in was that the chore queue would provide essentially a snapshot of when things are going to happen. And if you look at the chore queue, you're supposed to have like an idea of what things are coming up. But in practice, over the course of all, that responsibility shifted towards the graph parser. Essentially, it would go through all the chores in line, put all of them on the queue, and then wait until it would have permission to play another line, and then it would go through and turn all of the graphs related to the next line into more chores. And the actual queue, it basically ended up as a tiebreaker. Usually chores wouldn't spend more than a few frames on that queue, and then they would go on. And it was really important if we were playing multiple things, but one thing had to lock everything else. So it had to have higher priority to go first. And that's not even counting into like that timing stuff. When I say it wasn't well surfaced, some of that was on the UI. So there was that kind of things between, does controlling the time after line have to do with how long we're hiding the UI and how long we're waiting after that? And that, again, cost us in iteration time. But in spite of those problems, Sunshine Shuffle does some cool things, and I want to talk about them. The first is space. Everything in Sunshine Shuffle happens in the boat cabin, the same boat cabin. The game is in the boat cabin, the conversations are in the boat cabin, the shop is in the boat cabin, the menus, they're in the boat cabin. And that results in a certain effect that I at least have a bit of a hard time putting a finger on it, but I would compare it to actors performing secondary actions on stage while delivering their lines. It gives the character a certain life because they are involved in things that aren't directly related to what they're saying to the player right now. And in addition, the fact that there's no hard delineations in interface creates a seamlessness that just makes the space and the characters in it seem more alive. The next is reinterpretation. So Fidelis has this like explosive line, and in the game, because the poker layer and the narrative layer are independent of each other, you have a lot of good opportunities for that line happening in a lot of different contexts. It could happen after an all-in or a daring raise or a cautious bet. So that means that the line lands a little bit differently in each playthrough. And like inversely, I find that players project intention onto the poker AI's decisions based on what just happened in the narrative, regardless of whether or not that connection actually exists. So that kind of having two layers acting independent of each other in the game allows for a lot of unique moments of characterization, unique moments of comedy when you have a long pause because of a scripted think before a turn that just happened after an awkward line, for example. And that means that each playthrough of Sunshine Shuffle is a little bit unique. And it means that they are, and I'm very proud of that. And there was load. We did a lot of work towards minimizing player load through iteration, and even through the cost that we got through our inefficiencies of our tools, we managed to allow a gamer who can play poker and read at the same time. I'm very proud of that as well. So what are the takeaways? So first, anything we did get was through planning, and everything that we kind of missed was stuff that we missed in our planning through our workflows and structure. The design and the tooling, we needed to talk. The tooling was directly done by talking to Zalvir, who was going to be using those tools, what he felt comfortable with, and what the game was going to be. That was very clear from the start, and that got us a lot. And finally, that the tools, flawed as they were, shipped, and they shipped something that I was proud of. And so that's my main takeaway. This talk comes from the tension between the flaws of the tools and the pride in what we made, and I wanted to talk about that. So thank you for listening to my talk. I hope you enjoy the subsequent talks, and I hope you have a good time at Roguelike Celebration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stav. Well done fitting so much into that 15 minutes. We will not have time for questions, which is probably good because the only question so far is what is a conversation? And I'm not going to ask you to define that in 1 minute. So people can have that follow-up in the breakouts if they want. But I love that. And that final note of flawed tools ship is fantastic. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.